Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Japan once again and we're going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So out of the two breweries involved in this one, it's only the home brewery that's featured on the channel before. We've had a number of beers from these guys over the last few years. Always very, very good quality, and if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're most definitely best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. But in recent years, they have been experimenting a little bit more with different styles and doing lots of different things, which have always turned out to be pretty damn good. But yeah, the away brewery in this case is one that I haven't tried anything from before. I've heard very good things about them though. They've been around about the same length of time as the home brewery in fact, and they've only recently started getting their beers out there a little bit more in recent years from what I understand. But from what I hear, they do a lot of different styles and their beer is really good quality. So definitely nice to introduce this brewery to you here on the channel for the very first time, and hopefully we can do some solo brewery beer reviews from those guys going forward. I'll definitely look into that. But when it comes to the beer itself, this one is a style that I've had from the home brewery many times before. It's one that I know they can do very, very well, and it's also a very popular style of beer at the moment. And this one is one of the home brewery's latest releases here in Hong Kong too, and I've heard very good things about it. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to head over to Japan. For the home side of things, we are going to Shizuoka Prefecture, which is a little bit to the southwest of Tokyo, right next to Mount Fuji, and to be specific, we are going to the city of Mochimune, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful West Coast Brewing. So this particular beer is called No Mango. It comes in at 9% ABV. It's a New England Hazy, Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. And this one has been brewed in collaboration with Be Easy Brewing, who are from Hisoaki in Aomori Prefecture, right on the top part of Honshu, the main island of Japan, or the largest of the four main islands of Japan, I should say. So yeah, my very first encounter with those guys. I've heard the name before and I've heard good things about their beer, and like I said, that is a brewery that I definitely want to explore further going forward. But yeah, 9% New England Hazy IPA. This one, we've had many of these from West Coast Brewing. We know that they're always very good quality, and it's always nice to introduce new Japanese breweries to you here on Rampant Lion Reviews as well. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what the beer is going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about both the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from West Coast Brewing, and my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Be Easy Brewing. Very first time I'm encountering them, as I mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, which is fairly regularly because I'm over there visiting my son quite often, and we do get a fair selection of Japanese beers here in Hong Kong. But do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about the breweries then. We'll start off with West Coast Brewing, since they are the home brewery in this case. So yeah, West Coast Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Mochimune in Shizuoka Prefecture in Japan, right next to Mount Fuji, and the brewery was founded back in 2019 by Derek Baston, who's originally from Seattle in Washington over in the US Pacific Northwest, and previously he worked as an architect. So originally he came to Shizuoka back in 2003, and he would often visit different breweries during his trips home to the US, and he said that he was always really inspired by the craftsmanship that went into the West Coast American craft beers, and he wanted to bring some of that craftsmanship and the culture back to him with Japan, back with him to Japan, because he felt that there weren't really many breweries doing this at the time. So apparently the idea to found his own brewery can be traced back to 2014 when he designed the Shizuoka distillery for Gaia Flow, and this was his first real look inside the brewing and distilling world, and it inspired him to go and visit other breweries and distilleries and to talk to those inside the industry. And apparently doing this made the whole process of starting his own brewery seem a lot less daunting. So he founded a bar in Shizuoka called 12 to kind of test the water and see if the types of beers that he wanted to produce would be a hit with the locals, and it very quickly became clear that they would. So they found a premises in an abandoned tuna factory, tuna processing factory I should say, in the Mochimune marina, and they renovated it and converted it into a brewery. And the brewery itself is equipped with a 10 BBL system, which is around 1600 litres per brew, and they've got 10 fermentation vessels and 2 bright beer tanks, and they're producing somewhere in the region of 12 to 20,000 litres of beer per month, and they've got quite a few brewers there. But I believe the production manager at the moment is Satoshi Niwa, who is of course from Japan, and they've had various other people involved in the brewing side of things as well. But the brewery's mascot is of course the hop dude, which you can see on here. This artwork is designed by Simon Henshaw, who, if I'm not mistaken, is from Manchester in England, and he's done artwork for a few different breweries from what I understand. But over the first few years, these guys leaned mostly towards brewing different kinds of IPAs, notably the New England Hazies, but they've also established quite a successful barrel program in the last few years too. They have also been opening a number of tap rooms and restaurants and things like this. This includes Bao, which is a gyoza restaurant, 12, which is the original Izakaya, number 3, which is a bottle shop. All of those can be found in Shizuoka City. They've got the Oasis Bar in Hamamatsu, then they've got Umeda 1 and the Dark Lab in Osaka as well. But more recently, they've added 2 locations in Tokyo. This is Hopbeat Records in Marunouchi, which is a bar and bottle shop, and then they've also got the Room in Minato, which is a bar and restaurant, and there's now another location in Chatan down on the main island in Okinawa Prefecture too. But like I said, these guys have really made their name on the backs of the New England Hazy IPAs that they've made, but they do a wide variety of other styles of beer these days too, which are definitely worth checking out in my opinion. And as of October 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 485 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. They're pretty damn prolific, and their beer is pretty damn good, to be honest with you. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about West Coast Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that covers the home side of things. Let's head a little bit north to Aomori Prefecture and talk a little bit about Be Easy Brewing for the first time. So yeah, Be Easy Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Hirosaki in the Aomori Prefecture, which is the northernmost prefecture on Honshu, the very long island of Japan, the largest of the 4 main islands. And the brewery was founded back in 2016 by Gareth Anson Burns, who's originally from Fort Collins over in Colorado in the US, and apparently he first encountered craft beer in Japan and then encountered home brewing while back home in the US. But apparently one of his friends homebrewed, and it was this that inspired him to kind of try it for himself. He mentions in particular a saison that one of his friends brewed. But he first came to Japan during his time with the US Air Force, and he was based at Misawa Air Base in Aomori, which I believe is one of the US's biggest bases abroad, if I'm not mistaken. But he was part of the EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal Team, so quite an intense job. But after leaving the Air Force, he decided to settle in Japan, and apparently he learned the shamisen musical instrument, which is one of the kind of, I think you play it with a bow. It's quite a long stringed instrument, of course, and he also learned to speak the local Tsugaru-ben Japanese dialect. But he purchased a building in Hirosaki in which he founded an English school back in 2011, and then later he installed a 1,000 litre brew kit and opened a bar on the 2nd floor, which he called Gareth's Hideout. So Gareth chose Be Easy as the name of the brewery because he wants to promote a kind of casual lifestyle, which is understandable considering the job that he used to do, and he also uses Tsugaru-ben dialect dialect words for the names of many of his beers. But since starting the brewery, he's also purchased a small farm nearby where they produce some hops for the beers, and they also use a number of locally produced adjuncts in their beer as well. But in 2020, they opened a second location in Aomori City, which is called Aomori Brew Pub, and then the following year in 2021, they started canning their beers, and it's this that has allowed them to distribute the beers across Japan. So I'm guessing this is when I first started to hear about this brewery. 2021 sounds about right, to be honest with you. But apparently, they're also developing a brewery, a brewing supplies arm of the company as well, to supply other breweries in Japan too, and that's something that's been developing very recently. But like I said, I've heard that these guys do a wide variety of different styles, and as of October 2025, when we're filming this review for you, these guys have produced 505 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd. So yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Be Easy Brewing. Hopefully I can get up to Aomori at some stage and visit the brew pub, and also Gareth's hideout. That would be pretty cool, and try some of these beers fresh at source. That would be pretty awesome. And we'll need to see if we can get one of the cans of their own beers as well at some stage to review for you on the channel. As I say, always nice to cover different Japanese breweries, and I think that these guys might be my first brewery from Aomori Prefecture on the channel too, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that is everything, as I say, that I can really tell you about Be Easy Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, again, you can check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Untappd page as well to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So like I mentioned to you earlier, this one comes in at 9% ABV. It's a New England Hazy Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. And this one, from what I understand, it didn't say on the West Coast Brewing website what hops and things they'd used in it, which is a little bit unusual, but it did say that it had been brewed with a White Labs yeast that had been dubbed Mango Madness. So I'm guessing that's why they've called this one No Mango, because it tastes a lot like mango. And if you're going to get mango in your beer, you really want a bunch of like Citra, Idaho 7 kind of hops like this, actually, maybe a little bit of Galaxy or something. But yeah, a 9% New England Hazy Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. This one, we've had this style of beer many times from West Coast Brewing before, but like I said earlier, it's my first encounter with Be Easy Brewing from Aomori. So just a little quick look at the artwork for you there again. You can see the hop dudes just chilling there on the roller coaster. I think there is a theme park up there in Aomori, if I'm not mistaken, and probably that is what the artwork is a reference to, actually. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what it's all about. The other things you can see, there is the West Coast, one of the West Coast Brewing symbols on the side there, and you can also see the Aomori Be Easy Brewing symbol there too. I do like the mountain top thing on there as well. It reminds me of what was it, Fjällgårdens, was it Fjällbackens Brewery in back in Sweden. So yeah, let's get it out into the glass then and see what we have. Really looking forward to this one. I always enjoy my New England hazies from West Coast Brewing. So let's do this. There we are. So this looks good. Yeah, anyway, this one, as you can see, if you know this style of beer, the New England Hazies, it looks pretty much as you would expect. So yeah, before the head disappears on this one, we should say as well, we've poured maybe about 50% of the beer out and into the glass to take a look, but you can see this one has poured with about a half finger of a frothy, I would say slightly creamy coloured head there. You can see some medium-sized bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid. Then yeah, it's got a bit of a fluffier, soapier kind of thing just sitting on top of that. But yeah, lovely, very bright yellow, orange mango kind of colour coming out of this one. So yeah, I always like comparing the different New England IPAs to different fruit juices because that really is just what their appearance reminds me of. But remember, the colour of these beers depends on a couple of things. One is the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, the length of your wort boil is going to play a role because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. And yeah, you don't often have to care about those latter two variables when it comes to the New England hazy style category or the wider IPA style umbrella, if you like. But yeah, looks pretty much as you would expect from the style. Lovely kind of bright yellow mango juice colour, this one. If we shine the light through the beer, I wouldn't say this one is the soupiest and gloopiest of New Englands that I've come across, especially at the 9% marker, but the level of haze in these beers depends on the oak content and wheat content, and also to a degree what yeast you use as well. But there's not much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there, but yeah, you can see that head has just faded away to be a very sort of thin foamy layer in this one. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together, I think, is very nice. There's nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. It really does kind of fit the part of a New England hazy and a New England triple hazy IPA. But yeah, just not a lot of carbonation in this one. So I think we've finished with the appearance section of the video. Let's go on and have a little look at the aroma of this one then. That's what I'm very, very curious about. Oh, right, okay. So, first impression of this one, it's a very oaty, almost like milkshakey leaning New England IPA, this one. I would almost, if I was smelling this blind, I would guess there's a little bit of lactose or something in there, because it does have a little bit of that almost candied mango type character to it. But as I say, the sort of gimmick, well, maybe not the gimmick is the right word. The key thing about this beer is that it's using a special type of yeast, so I'm getting a lot of this almost like tropical Skittles type quality out of this beer. It's got a little bit of that candied kind of character to it, and yeah, it comes across as being a very oaty leaning New England IPA, this one. So yeah, as I've said on the channel many a time before, when it comes to New England IPAs, there's sort of 6 elements to think about these beers when you're looking at the malty and yeasty side of things. So you've got the farmhousey yeasty character and the rye leaning grainy side of things. Those 2 elements are a bit more common in the New England brewed New England IPAs, because the style did start out as like a sort of farmhouse type IPA, but then yeah, you've got wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also the sweeter side of things, and those elements are a little bit more common in the IPA, the more modern New England IPAs, if we can call them that, because that's happened. The style has evolved that way as it's moved to other places. So like I say, this one to me comes across as being quite oaty leaning, and of course the yeasty character is coming out in this one because that's the main focus point of this beer, we can say. But yeah, it does almost smell like, really, it's quite a pungent mango that comes out of this yeast, in all honesty, which is quite interesting. But yeah, let's just break that down, or break the aroma of this one down then, and describe it for you more in depth. So yeah, the backbone of this beer, as you would expect from a hazy IPA, it's got that lovely sort of white bready, bread crusty backbone to it. So you can also smell little elements of wood and little bits of cracker in there, but for me, this one's got a lot of kind of very bright, fresh white bready notes to it. So lovely, fresh, slightly sweet white bready character in there. You can absolutely smell a little bit of wheat in this one. There's a wee bit of bitiness further back in the nose, and you can smell that denser wheaty white bready character. And then yeah, you've got the big oaty, creamy sort of notes coming out of this one too. This beer is not at its absolute freshest. I'm guessing this one is maybe about 3 months old as of the time of drinking, which is still fine, but as I say, it's not at its optimum fresh. I think usually between 1 month and 2 months is the best age for these New England IPAs. Maybe 2.5 months roughly, but you can smell a little bit of the dryness coming out of the oats in this beer. And as I've often said, the oaty character in a New England IPA is a very good rough indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is. Essentially, the creamier the oats smell and taste, the fresher the beer is, the drier they are, the older it is. You're starting to get a little bit of dryness out of this one, but we should take that with a pinch of salt, because This beer obviously has quite a unique yeast to it, so maybe that's amplifying the effect a little bit. But definitely some nice creamy oaty character in this one. Yeah, some lovely kind of creamy oaty notes in there. There's a little touch of sweetness out of this one. Like I say, I'm getting a fair little bit of like Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy kind of note out of this one. And I think some of that is being amplified by the yeast as well. And you can smell that, how would you say? You can smell that kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity kind of character, and also it's kind of like, you know, the tropical Skittles. It's kind of like that. That's the aroma that I'm really getting out of this one, to be honest with you, especially further back, and it mixes in with that sort of bitier side of the wheat as well. So yeah, I don't know if there's too much else to say about the malty side of the beer. So let's focus on the yeasty side of things. So for me, the yeasty side of this beer, it's how would we say? The yeasty side of this one, at the back of the nose, it's got a little bit of a kind of brown bready character. It's got a little bit of a kind of brown bready character at its core, but you can smell some softer white bready notes in there, a little bit of a more yeah, it's got a little bit of a more kind of fluffier white bread and bread crusty character, some Jacob's cream cracker, like I said. Yeah, it's like a sort of, yeah, there's brown bread at its core, lots of fluffy white bread, lots of character, and as I say, just fluffy fresh white bread in there. So the way that all of that kind of pieces together in this one, I think is really, really interesting. So it gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. The malty yeasty side of this beer is quite interesting, but it comes across, as I say, as being quite kind of candied in comparison to some others that I've had. But let's go on and focus on the hoppy side of things with this beer. So as I've often said in my IPA reviews, there are three types of hoppings that you can do when making one of these beers. You've got early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour or so of the wort boil. That gives you a very kind of deep, dank sort of, it gives you a really sort of deep, dank kind of quality, if you like, but it's responsible for the vast majority of your bitterness. Then you've got late addition hopping, which takes place within the latter half hour of the wort boil. Gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly responsible though for flavour and aroma, and it gives you a very bright green component. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete. That one's all about flavour and aroma, and yeah, it's all about flavour and aroma. And then yeah, it's no bitterness, to be honest, very bright green component. So West Coast IPAs tend to use all three, which is why they're deeper, danker and more oily, whereas New England IPAs tend to rely on late addition and dry hopping, which is why they are kind of softer, more juicy and less bitter, to be honest with you. So yeah, with this beer, it's quite obvious that they're relying mainly on late addition and dry hopping, because you've got a nice brighter green component in there. There's a teeny little bit of earthiness and slightly woody character coming out of this one, but your green component is definitely leaning more towards that nice bright floral aromaticity, and also a little bit of a zesty kind of grassy character. So yeah, I think that covers the green component side of it. Let's round off our look at the aroma with a wee look at the fruity side of things. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer for me, I actually get quite a little bit of peach and almost guava type quality out of this one, so you can smell that little bit of fruity sharpness in there. I don't know how much of that's coming from the yeast, right enough, but I'm certainly getting some of that further forward on those. So for me, there is a wee bit of that peach and slightly green guava type character to it. But yeah, lots of juicy mango, passion fruit, apricot, pineapple, and I do think there's a wee bit of a limey character in this one as well. Maybe Mochimune involved in this beer as well, just to kind of balance it out, because otherwise you'd have a really creamy, only mango-y sort of thing. But I'm definitely getting a wee bit more of a citrusy note out of this one, and there's just something in my head telling me that it's Mochimune. It's got that juicy lime and that zesty, grassy kind of character, to be honest with you. Centennial from the US would also be an option, but my head's telling me Mochimune, just from experience, to be quite honest. But yeah, and see, with that lovely kind of green guava-y type note out of this as well, along with all the other mango-y stuff. So yeah, very, very interesting aroma, this one. It's actually a little bit sharper and a little bit more candied, I would say, than some of the other West Coast brewing beers that I've had in the past. So yeah, as I always say, just take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we taste this one then and see what it's all about. So yeah, let's go for it and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. This one is the No Mango, a 9% New England Hazy, Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA, brewed by West Coast Brewing in Mochimune, Shizuoka Prefecture in Japan, in collaboration with Be Easy Brewing from Shinsake in Aomori in the very northern part of Honshu in Japan. Let's see what we have here. This will be awesome. Slanje, skål, cheers, kanpai. Oh yeah, right. I can see the kind of joke behind the name in this one. As soon as you taste this, yeah. If you tasted this blind without knowing what it was, yeah, you'd probably think there was a bit of mango added into it, because you know when you add fruit into New England IPAs as an adjunct, I've had it a few times, it really just softens up everything, and it just, you know, it pushes back against the green component a little bit. It gives you a lot of softness in the malt base and stuff like that. I think this one goes together really, really nicely, so it gets a big thumbs up from me. But yeah, definitely a more sort of almost candied take on the New England IPA, and kind of softer and more juicy. That's one of the things I would say, that the flavour profile in this one, it gives you everything you'd expect, but that kind of sharper citrusy note I was picking up in the aroma really doesn't appear in this one, so that's worth bearing in mind. But yeah, really interesting beer, this one. Let's break it down then and describe it for you a bit more in depth, as we always do. So yeah, middle third of your palate then. It was very, as I say, it's very juicy, oaty and yeasty leaning New England IPA, this one. But yeah, let's go to the middle of that back third of your palate then. So the backbone of this beer, you've got that lovely fresh kind of white bready bread crust in there. As you move further, and it's very soft white bready bread crust this time as well, I would say. You get a little touch of woodiness further forward on that middle third of your palate then, which is lovely. You get more and more of that into the aftertaste. Then above that you get a wee smattering of Jacob's cream cracker, which I think is great as well. But yeah, on top of that, there's a lovely kind of wholemeal brown bready sort of character to this one. So yeah, I love the wholemeal brown bready character that sits on top of that. That gives the beer a little bit of almost kind of grainy sweetness into the aftertaste. But the next layer above that is a more dense and slightly sweet white bready character. That's from the barley malt, of course, does give you that little bit of sweetness there. But then the next layer up, you've absolutely got the more dense wheaty and white bready notes coming out of the beer. So you get that more dense wheaty white bready sort of thing. It's a little bit smoother further forward, then you've got a wee bit more kind of bitiness to it further back as well, which I think is great. So yeah, the wheaty side of the things in this one is really nice, but of course, for me, as I say, it's more of an oaty leaning New England IPA, this one. So down the middle line of your tongue, you can feel that really dense, creamy sort of oaty character, and as you move out toward the edges of your palate, you can feel it does just get that little bit drier. But within the oaty side of things, you absolutely get some really sort of soft, juicy mango. It's almost like, I say, a kind of tropical Skittles mango, especially further back on that middle third of your palate. So yeah, the sort of juicy mango-y bit in there, then the kind of almost candied, sherbety sort of mango further back on the palate is really interesting, and that, as I say, is probably the trademark of this particular yeast that they're using, actually. Yeah, it's interesting. So in the dead centre of your palate, on top of that oaty character, you can feel there's a little circle there where you get the Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, and there's a wee bit of a yeah, there's a wee bit of that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing coming out of this one too, which again I do really quite like. So yeah, lovely kind of McVitie's yeah, as I say, lovely little bit of Werther's original butter candy butterscotch, and there's a wee bit of the kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing in there as well. And yeah, the way that that goes together, you do get that little bit of sweetness just coming out of this beer into the aftertaste as well, which I do really enjoy. I think at that we've covered everything that's in the middle third of your palate with this beer. It's, as I say, just a little bit more candied and a little bit more dense in its bready characters as well. So yeah, do we need to say anything more about that? I don't think so, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, I like that with this one. The way it goes together is really quite nice. So let's go to the back third of your palate. As I've often said, the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, but just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, again you get that little bit of bready build-up in there. There's the kind of brown bread in the base, the barley malt white bread in the middle, then the more dense wheaty white bread on top. So the base of that back third of your palate, you can feel this, the kind of white bready bread crust. It's a little bit of a, it's a little bit drier. Of course, you've got the crackery notes above that. The wholemeal brown bready layer which sits above that is a little bit lighter, taller, drier and more airy. The white bready character that sits above that again is a little bit lighter, taller, drier and more airy. Then you can feel the more dense wheaty white bready character on top of that, which has a little bit more bite to it further back on the palate. Then we've got the more yeasty side of things coming out of this one as well. So let's have a little look at that yeasty character. So yeah, the yeasty side of things in this one for me, there's a little bit of like a sweet brown bready character at the core, which is nice. So yeah, a little bit of that sweet brown bready character there. Then it's surrounded by a slightly softer and drier brown bread, and yeah, the very edge of the that yeasty character is like this very sweet mango infused white bready character. Kind of reminds me of some of these dried fruits that you find in Japan and in Hong Kong, of course. It's really kind of like that. It's almost got a little bit of a sultana type flavour to it as well. But yeah, definitely back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of compresses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together in this beer, I think is really very, very nice. Yeah, I don't think we need to say any more about the malty and yeasty side of things. So let's look at the hoppy side of the beer. Back corners of the palate, you do get a little tiny touch of earthiness in there, but as you move further forward, you can see there's a little bit of bitterness from the hops. There's maybe a teeny bit of pine resin, but yeah, as you come further forward, you get a little bit more of that sort of floral aromaticity, and it's a little touch spicy, like I said, but round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy and slightly zesty. But yeah, I like the way that that pieces together in this one. The green component, the fact that the green component is so noticeable in this one, that tells you there's a little bit of early addition hopping going on, but it also tells you that you don't have mango in this beer as an adjunct, which is the kind of one of the sort of puns they're going for with the name, I guess. But let's focus on the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of this beer. So, for me, how would you say? For me, the front third of your palate then, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that little bit of bready build up in there. There's the wholemeal brown bread in the base, the fluffier white bread in the middle, then the more dense wheaty white bready character on the top. The base of the front third of your palate is the white bready bread crust, the Jacob's cream cracker, the wholemeal brown bread, fluffier white bread, then the more dense wheaty kind of character, and then above that, of course, you get that nice oily bubble where the fruity esters just roll the way out of the beer. So let's have a little look at that. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer, there's a lot of mango in it, as you might guess. But yeah, if you go to the back of that, and the other thing, I was picking up a lot of the kind of guava and peach in the aroma of this one, but I do wonder if it's Idaho 7 that's in here, to be honest with you, just with the way this beer is picking up, you know, Motueka, maybe a little touch of Motueka, but on the, you know, it smelled like Motueka, but it doesn't taste overly like Motueka in all honesty. I really want to say it's probably a lot of Idaho 7 that's in here. But yeah, could be some of the New Zealand hops as well, because you get some of those very soft ones that give you a lot of that mango quality too. But yeah, if you go to the back of that front 30 palette, there's lots of lovely soft juicy kind of mango in there. Underneath that there's a bit of a softer kind of passion fruit, and then a drier apricot note as you come further forward. I'm getting little notes of like sultana and stuff like that out of this one. And then further forward there's just a little bit of a slight citrusy note on the very front tip of your tongue. But like I say, I thought it was Motueka from the aroma, but I'm not so convinced from the flavour. Yeah, it's almost got like a very slightly strawberry-ish type note. Could it be a bit of strata, maybe? There's almost, yeah, as you go into the front half of the front third of your palette, it's got a little bit of an almost gooseberry, like strata, like gooseberry strawberry type note, which makes me think strata. You know, Enigma would be a little bit more of a red currant, to be honest with you, but you know, that would give you the gooseberry kind of character too. But yeah, the front for me, yeah, the back half on the fruity side of things, there's lots of juicy mango, there's passion fruit underneath, softer apricot, there's a wee bit of an almost like sultana type quality to it. But yeah, the front half of the front third of your tongue in this one feels like, it feels like a little bit of oily gooseberry underneath, then a kind of candied strawberry on top of that. So that makes me think of strata, but of course some of these fruity characters might be coming from the yeast in this one. But yeah, I mean, Idaho 7 and strata would be the two that come to mind with this one. And as I say, I was getting Motueka almost from the aroma of the beer. It's always fun to play guess the hops, of course, but these days there are so many different varieties, it's pretty damn difficult. But yeah, mostly a tropical fruity note with this one, but as I say, a little bit of gooseberry and an almost kind of candied strawberry sort of character into the aftertaste for me. So yeah, really interesting beer, this one, and one where the aroma and sort of flavour profile just diverge a little bit. So I like that. I do like how that kind of pieces together in this one. But yeah, anyway, so I think we can leave it at that for the flavour. So let's round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, mouthfeel wise, this beer, it's, I would say, top end and mid-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth in this one. It's still got that typical Japanese cleanliness to it. As I've often said, the Japanese want their beers to be clean and drinkable. So you'll get big beers over there that are, even though they're big imperial stouts, they've still got that element of cleanliness to them. Japanese water as well, Volcanic Island, very, very good quality. So yeah, you get that element of Japanese cleanliness to this beer. In terms of its IBU count, I think this is maybe about 30 or 40 IBUs, which is kind of standard for the New England IPA style, but this one's a bit stronger, so maybe 40 IBUs. The malt base, as we say, it's a bit drier underneath, smoother in the middle, then you've got a wee bit of a kind of creamy sweetness on top, and then yeah, you've got those lovely juicy fruity notes out of this one. A bit candied fruity further back on the palate, so you get that sort of mangoey, sherbety note actually, but then yeah, you've got all the mango, apricot, pineapple sort of stuff at the front, and also that little bit of gooseberry and kind of strawberry note out of this beer. But yeah, another lovely, lovely New England triple IPA from West Coast Brewing, of course, but slightly more candied, I would say, than some of the others we've had, and definitely a very interesting first encounter with Be Easy Brewing as well. So we need to have a look at some of their own beers going forward. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the No Mango New England Hazy Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA at 9% ABV using a special White Labs yeast called Mango Madness. Very interesting, gives you a really candied kind of flavour profile of the beer. This one came to you from West Coast Brewing in Mochimune, Shizuoka, while the collaboration brewery was Be Easy Brewing from Shinosaki in Aomori Prefecture, both of those of course on Honshu, the Japanese main island. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from both West Coast Brewing and Be Easy Brewing, and we'll return to both of those breweries at some point in the near future. But in the meantime, check out my social media, check out the brewery's social media, enjoy some good beers, and I'll catch you guys in another review very soon. Sláinte, skål, cheers, kampai.